Good evening, everybody. This is Mr. Abdul Jamal. Welcome to a new session of English language. Today we are going to deal with Cambridge English Lower Secondary. We are in the unit of the Grandmother Song, and today we are going to explain the lesson 2.2, Making Progress. In this session, we are going to trace link between plot and character in the story. We are going to explore how direct speech is used in order to reveal a character, and we are going to discuss different views about a story and to write about the purpose and the effect of a structural device. In order to get started, I need to remind students of the difference between language and structure. What is the difference between language and structure? Language refers to the words and phrases that writer uses to express ideas, create images, or evoke emotions. Language is the content. Language is the words and the phrases which we are use. That includes vocabulary, figurative language, literal language, metaphors, similes, personification, descriptive words, dialogue, tone. Anything can relate to the language or to the words or to the manuscript itself, either in writing or in speaking. So it's the production of the language, production of words. It focuses on how something is said, while the structure is the layout or the shape. When you look at the text, what you can see: paragraphs, words, lines, stanzas. So it structure refers to how a story or a text is organized. It involves the way events are arranged, how the plot unfolds, and the devices used to guide the reader through the text. It focuses on how the story is built. So that's something related to chronological order, logic order, beginning, middle, ending, and so on. I have now a table, okay, a very important table. It will identify the structural features of any genre we know. So I have the structural feature, I have description and examples from literature. The structure, for example, I have beginning, middle, end. Stories are often divided into three main parts: introduction, developments, resolution. The problem is introduced, developed, then solved. Example, any novel or short story in fiction. Another structural feature, chapters or paragraphs. They will be dividing a story into sections or organize ideas or events into paragraphs. As you know, paragraph is a group of sentences which are related to one topic, while chapters are a group of paragraphs which talk or deal with a main topic, main theme, let's say. Chapters in a novel or a paragraph can be found in short stories or novels. I have a structural feature like tension and release, tension and suspense. Building suspense and then providing resolution in order to keep readers engaged. An example, chase scene followed by safe reunion. We can say, or we can find in detective stories, horror stories, any kind of attractive stories which are built on suspense. Foreshadow, it's another structural feature. It will hint about what will happen later in the story without revealing the whole story. They will give you hints or ideas. A storm, example of course, a storm brewing before a major conflict. So they will tell you that there is something bad or conflict will happen. Flashback is to go back in time, in narrative. It's a scene set in a time earlier than the main story to provide background information. An example, character remembering their childhood in order to build a background for the reader to understand what the story is talking about. Structure of repetition. When you repeat words, phrases, ideas, themes, all of them are repeated in order to emphasize a theme or an emotion, to stress on an idea the writer wants to deliver to the reader. Example, the waves crashed again and again. I repeated again and again in order to highlight or emphasize the crash. Climax. It's the most exciting, the most important moment in the story where we have lots of problems and we need solution. We have a block. We have a dead end. We don't know what to happen. So the hero confronts the villain and he is in need to help. Plot twists. Very important structural feature and it will engage the reader because not all of your story should be positive. Not all of your story should be negative. You have to make a turn out or a turn in. Unexpected change in the story that surprises the reader. By the way, the plot twist, the twist itself, the unexpected scene, it could be happen in the beginning or in the middle or in the end. So, example, a trusted friend betrays the protagonist. Perspective or point of view, that's an important structural feature. That's the angle, okay? The angle from which the story is told. Is it from first person, third person, second person, limited perspective? It depends. An example, I couldn't believe my eyes versus she couldn't believe her eyes. Of course, we have difference between narrating the story from first person or from third person. Time shift, it is when you jump or when you transit between times in order to attract the reader in narrative. An example, alternating between past and present. Symbolism, it is when you use objects or actions in order to represent larger ideas. An example, dove. A dove symbolizes peace. Red. Red symbolizes blood. Green. Green symbolizes life. Now, pacing. Pacing, it is how fast are you in narrating your story. The speed at which events in the story unfold. When you have slow pace, you are trying to create suspense. When you are fast pacing, you are quick in delivering action scenes in order to wrap up or to finish or to show the reader that we have something more important. So quick actions scene versus the slow descriptive moments. That was, uh, 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 let's say, a comprehensive table of identifying structural features, and that's only the introduction or the getting started of the lesson. An example to show differences between structural features. What's the difference between structure and language? Let's go now to extracts 3. Remember that we talked in extract 1 and 2 in the grandmother song. We talked about the character of the grandmother and we contrasted her to the character of the granddaughter, and we said that the grandmother is rooted, she's old, she's experienced, she's tough, she's wise, while the granddaughter is young, fragile, weak. She has no experience, inexperienced, and we are showing a character development, and we are moving into the plot. So now, this traditional story, this Mexican story, it's English, I mean, but the set or the scene, the idea in Mexico. Now the traditions or the song will be transformed, will be transparent, will be transit from the grandmother into the granddaughter. So the granddaughter will become better, stronger, and later on the grandmother, sorry, will pass away. It's to pass the generation, to pass the courage or the inheritage or the heritage or the value, if you wish to say, from the grandmother into the granddaughter. Okay? From the grandmother into the granddaughter. Let's listen. Let's read with each other. Extract 3.
Extract 3. When grandmother heard the door creak open, she ran to her granddaughter and scooped her up in her arms, hugging her. Then she settled granddaughter on her great wide lap and gently stroked her. She stroked her head and her slender back, and as she stroked she sang, "Oh, my little one, I can feel your young heart beating so. I can feel trembling inside your belly. I can hear fear inside your bones." She stroked and then continued, "The world is a frightening place for those who cannot trust. So I am stroking trust into you, the trust I feel and the trust my grandmother felt and her grandmother before her." Granddaughter felt her immense warmth entering her body, and as the sun set behind the house, slowly the trembling eased, and she fell asleep. The next day, a group of children surprised trembling granddaughter as she played at the roadside. They ran over the hill right towards her, gleefully laughing and shouting. "Which way to the river?" they called. Instead of running away, granddaughter pointed to the left without her finger wavering, even though she was shaking inside. That evening, trembling granddaughter told her grandmother what had happened. Grandmother smiled. "That's progress," she declared. She lifted granddaughter onto her lap and stroked her like a cat. Then she began to sing. "Listen carefully, my little one. I can feel trembling in your belly. I can hear fear inside your bones. The world is a frightening place for those without courage. But today you showed you were brave by pointing the way even though you wanted to run."
That's magnificent. Because in extract 1 and extract 2, we had uh, a very weak character of the granddaughter. When she saw the armadillo, the animal, the creature, she felt afraid and she ran away and she started to look around her fearfully out of shadows. She was so afraid. But in this character, or in this extract, we feel that she is becoming uh, stronger. Although she is shaking from inside, but she did it. She pointed out to the way without talking. She just reacting. She pointed. The granddaughter pointed the left without her finger wavering. And the grandmother said, "That's progress." And she continued to stroke her and to pass the sing or the song into her. Okay, so those magical words, if we can say, they are passing from the grandmother into the granddaughter. So we have a character development. That's nice. Now, all stories have a plot which is a series of connected events that show how character and situation change. Copy and complete the following table to show what happens in each paragraph in extract 3. So we have 5 paragraphs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In each paragraph we have an action and we need to say what is the action and what's the reflection or what's the meaning or what's the effect of that action. In paragraph 1, what happens? The grandmother hugs the granddaughter, she strokes her, and she sings to her about trust. That shows grandmother is nurturing and wise, helping granddaughter feel safe. Granddaughter, however, is scared, but finds comfort in her grandmother's care. In paragraph 2, things became better. A group of children approach granddaughter. That's a test, a challenge. She helps them by pointing the way when they asked about the road. What that shows? That shows progress. Granddaughter shows progress by acting courageously despite her inside fear. What happened in paragraph 3? The grandmother celebrated that progress. Granddaughter went tell her grandmother what happened, and the grandmother praises her bravery. Remember that in extract 1 and 2, the granddaughter wasn't talking. She was a silent character, only uh, crying. Now that shows that a grandmother encourages and acknowledges a granddaughter's progress, reinforcing her growth with love and support. In paragraph 4, we have to read. I will tell you what will happen. Okay, we have a hummingbird that falls in on the floor, and the granddaughter picks it up tenderly and brings it inside. The granddaughter has grown to care for others, mirroring her grandmother's nurturing nature. And in paragraph 5, a grandmother and the granddaughter care for the hummingbird together. A grandmother praises her gift in healing or of healing, and the grandmother teaches compassion and wisdom. Granddaughter gains confidence and embraces the equalities her grandmother has passed down. We need to read paragraph extract 4 in order to understand this 4 and 5. Keep it in mind, but we haven't finished yet because things will be developing more and more. Okay, I need now to say something about the words, about the description. Okay, let's make notes about the effects of these words and what impression do you get of characters. Okay, let's read extract 4 with each other. Let's solve number 2. Okay, extract 4.
Extract 4. Some time later, a young hummingbird fell from a nest in the garden and broke its wing. Instead of running away, trembling granddaughter walked towards the little bird and picked it up. Its body was shaking even more than her own. She could feel its tiny fluttering heart and its warm feathery tummy. She held the hummingbird with the same tenderness as her grandmother had held her, and carried it inside. Grandmother knew how to look after hurt animals. Together they made a little nest of cloth and straw in a box, and fed the bird. Grandmother's smile spread across her face and lit up her eyes. Certainly this is progress, she exclaimed, and while the hummingbird slept, Grandmother took trembling granddaughter on her broad lap and sang to her, "My little one, listen well. I can feel trembling in your belly. I can hear fear inside your bones. The world is a frightening place for those who cannot help others. Today you helped a tiny frightened creature and discovered your gift of healing." All through the night she held her beloved grandchild safe on her comfortable lap and sang, "This is my gift that I am stroking into you. It is also a gift of my grandmother and of her grandmother before her."
Wonderful. So focus on the word or the phrase gift of healing, and focus on it is also the gift of my grandmother and of her grandmother before her. So that's something passed through generation. So the grandmother is passing the gift which took from ancestors or grandmothers before, and she is passing it to the granddaughter. What happened in this extract? She was in the forest and she saw a bird, and that bird fell from the nest and broke its wing. She was afraid. She took it and she went to the grandmother. She tried to help that bird. So that gift of healing, that's a progress, because now the granddaughter is more courageous and she cares for healing or helping other creatures. That's certainly progress. Although she is afraid, and the grandmother feeling the trembling in her belly, in the granddaughter's belly, I mean, however, that's a progress. And she is praising her granddaughter and put her on her lap and stroke her and sing to her, okay, in order to make her calm and okay. So coming back or going back to the questions, I have words and actions. It was revealed about the grandmother's character and the granddaughters. And we need to contrast between the two actions and the two words. Remember that the granddaughter is becoming better. So, grandmother stroked her head and her slender back and sang softly, praised the granddaughter's courage. The effect or the impression: the grandmother is loving, is wise, is supportive. I'm trying to analyze the character. Her actions shows her as a patient guide, helping her granddaughter grow. While the granddaughter is trembling, eased, pointed, without her finger wavering. And that picked up the bird tenderly. What happened? What's the effect? What's the impression? Granddaughter starts timid and scared, but now or later she shows courage and compassion as she learns from her grandmother. That's an important progress. Now, if you look at the text, you will find lots of direct speech. Can you see the direct speech and long direct speech? Direct speech is anything inside inverted commas. anything said by the main character or by the characters in general. Anything we need to put inside the text in order to make it alive. Because usually the alive character or lively characters who are saying this direct speech. Direct speech is used to stress or to highlight an important thing. So the question is, why do we use direct speech and character portray inside this text? Direct speech here shows personality. When the grandmother said or repeated the words, I can feel it trembling in your belly. The world is a frightening place. This is my gift passed down. All of these are said by the grandmother. In the first one, grandmother understands emotions deeply and offers reassurance to the daughter. In the next one, she acknowledges the challenge while encouraging strength and courage in her granddaughter. In the third one, grandmother emphasizes heritage wisdom, nurturing as her legacy was transformed or transit or transmit between or from grandmother into the granddaughter. And what's the connotation or uh, the meaning of the hummingbird? Hummingbird is a representation or a symbol of growth because the bird's broken wing mirrors granddaughter's initial fear. Hummingbird is an action of care because hummingbird is weak and it needs care. So by helping this bird, the granddaughter demonstrates her newfound bravery and compassion. The timing in the story is so important to show that the character is developing and the granddaughter is growing up. In this moment exactly, the granddaughter is transforming from a weak person into a strong, independent, careful, responsible character. It introduces after granddaughter helps the children. It reinforces her progress and shows that she can now pass on the care and healing she received. And it is the theme of the story, it's the message of the story because the hummingbird's recovery symbolizes healing and personal growth. And that applied on the character of the daughter as well because it emphasizes the grandmother's lesson. She heals the granddaughter like the granddaughters who heals the hummingbirds. God is the healer, of course, but we are symbolizing or talking about the story. So be careful to the hummingbird, why it is important, and what might happen, what might help the writer to have a better structure. Of course, understanding, of course, putting the story in paragraph shape, moving from time to another time, passing from idea to another idea. That structure will help the reader to understand the story very well. It will help the reader to gain the main theme. This sequence of events will make the reader understand the purpose and it will practice identifying symbols and other roles in the story. It's very important. Remember, please, that language focuses on the words the writer used, while structure refers on how the story organized. So, in the end of this lesson, I need you to remember that we can trace how the events reveal the character traits. From paragraph to paragraph, you understand the character from outside and from inside, and we can explain how the character words reflect into their personality when the grandmother explains something about the granddaughter, or the narrator himself talked about the transformation of the character, of the daughter, I mean, the granddaughter. And we can make some points overview, for example, about the hummingbird. What's the hummingbird representing? We gave a 3 points overview about the hummingbird, okay, or maybe 4. And then we identified and explained the purpose of the structure inside the story, and we gave evidence of them, okay. Now that question is very important, a reflection or how to use the hummingbird as a structural device. I'll go to the notes, I'll talk about the words, okay, extract 3 and extract 4. The genre of the story is descriptive narrative. The purpose, we convey emotional growth and moral lessons through vivid storytelling. It is descriptive language. It has lots of imagery and emotions. It is repeated phrases for emphasis and rhythm. It has dialogue that deepens the relationship between characters. The themes of trust, courage, empathy, and intergenerational wisdom are being there. That's the feature of the text and the genre of the conventions. I'm talking about extract 3 and extract 4. The main idea of the extract, the story depicts how a grandmother nurtures her granddaughter's emotional growth, how to help her in order to develop trust, how to courage and compassion through all small meaningful actions. The theme or the message, the trust, how to build confidence, courage, how to face fear, empathy, how to care for others, legacy, what to pass, like wisdom and values across generations. Some words and vocabularies found on the text or in the text. Trembling, the meaning is to shake due to fear or emotion. Synonym, synonyms, shaking or quivering. Antonym, still or calm. The effect, it conveys vulnerability and emotional struggle. Trust, it is a belief in reliability and honesty. A synonym, confidence or faith, an antonym, doubt or distrust. The effect of using trust highlights emotional connection and growth. Courage, the meaning is strength to face fear and to face challenge. A synonym, brave, valor. Antonym, it's fear or timid. And the effect of using courage to demonstrate a character development and bravery through the story. Tenderness, gentle, care. A synonym, kind, warm. Antonym, harsh, cruelly. The effect of using tenderness to evoke comfort and nurturing. Healing, it is to make something whole or better, to heal, to recover, to mend. The antonym, to damage or to harm. And the effect is to symbolize care and emotional repair. Progress, it is a positive development. It has another meaning of improvement or growth. It has an antonym of regression and decline. The effect, to show achievement and personal growth. When I'm going to ask you to write a short story inspired by grandmother's song, which is to rewrite the text using your own words and phrases, your words and language. Okay? Your story should focus on a moment when a character overcomes fear or show kindness to another. You have to plan your story by brainstorming ideas. What, who, what lesson? What caused fear in the character? Who or what do they help? What lesson do they learn? Then put an introduction, a middle, a climax, a conclusion. In the introduction, set the scene and introduce the character. In the middle, describe the challenge or the fear. The climax, show the point, the peak of the problem. Conclusion, reflect on the growth. How did you solve the problem? What's the lesson learned? It is important to use descriptive language to incorporate vocabulary from the text, those 5 or 6 words. Include them in your writing, please. And revise and edit to check your work with the checklist before submitting it. Checklist. Your story should be clear structure. This is very important because we talked about the structure today of beginning, middle, and end. Put, please, some direct speech. Please involve emotions and actions in a vivid way. Use at least 3 or 5 keywords from the vocabulary of the text. Your story should show a growth or a lesson, and please check and revise the spelling and punctuation as well as the grammar before submitting the writing. A simplified example, a sample of writing. The little sparrow. As the wind howled through the dark forest, Maya sat trembling by the campfire. She is afraid, fragile character. Her heart racing like a drum. She was terrified of the shadows dancing around her. Look at the metaphor. Suddenly, I'm changing the mood. She heard a faint chirruping sound. A tiny sparrow had fallen from a tree. It's a fragile wing bent awkwardly. A creature needs help, and she is weak. She has to be responsible in helping the character or the creature in order to have a character development. What happened? Maya hesitated. She hesitated, fear gripping her. But then she remembered her mother's gentle words. Can you see the direct speech? The value will pass from generation to another generation. My little one, courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. She took a deep breath, walked towards the bird, and carefully picked it up. It was warm, feathery body quivered in her hands. She is transforming. Listen. Maya built a small nest out of leaves. Now the resolution. That's the peak of the problem, the climax. And this is the resolution. Maya built a small nest out of leaves and kept the build or the bird safe until morning. When the sun rose, she smiled, knowing she had conquered her fear and helped a helpless creature. Short story, simple story, descriptive language. It covers the learning objectives which we learned today, and in a way, it is a rewritten of the text which we learned today. In the end, the homework in the workbook 2.2 making progress, the focus question, you will read and you will try to annotate emotions experienced by the boy and the bird. Then practice to apply. You will think more deeply about the first flight, and then you will point out to what might the writer trying to make the boy experience in the school, how to become better. While the challenge, you are going to write your own short story where an animal or where you use an animal or even a setting to show feeling of a character, and you have to choose one idea. An old man watching a cat limp down the street, or a hospital patient looking at a documentary about the recovery of injured tigers. Before I leave, I just want to mention something very important. I'd like to congratulate a student of mine, Ahmed. He got the full mark, mashallah, in English as first language, Cambridge Lower Secondary, checkpoint series of October. We made English as second language in April, and we repeated it in October, English as first language. He got the full mark. So, Bismillah, mashallah, I need to congratulate Ahmed for his effort and for his hard work. And I'd like to thank the mother, Madame Hannah. Thank you so much for the nice words. I didn't do anything, to be honest. Ahmed did everything. I just guided the student. Uh, Inshallah, you will find him in the best place. And inshallah, he will be one of the aces in the IGCSE next year. So thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much, ya Ahmed. And I'm very proud of you. I am really proud of you. Thank you so much. This is Mr. Abdul Wahab Jamal saluting everybody. And thank you so much again. And see you next time, inshallah.